Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Taking the Bar. I'm your host Matthew Mobilio of the Mobilio Wood law firm. This is a show where local lawyers and lawmakers talk law and politics, tell us a little bit about themselves while we're having a drink at a local bar. My guest today is Tara Zrinski. Tara Zrinski is she is a philosopher. She's an adjunct professor of philosophy. She's a Northampton County Council member, a mother of three, and she is running for the 14th Senate District to be the state senator for Pennsylvania. Tara, thank you so much for coming today.
Well, thanks for having me.
We are here at Bell Hall. This is Bell Hall's patio, actually, so we're taking over the Bell Hall patio. They've been so kind. Jeremiah, the owner, and the staff here has been so kind to give this to us. And this is an amazing place. It's a little cloudy here today, although you can see a lot of sun in the background. But this is, if you're looking for a place, especially after a Phantoms game or something else downtown, this is the place to go. Amazing burgers, amazing beers, amazing drinks. Come down here. I will tell you this, though, that any opinions or statements made here today are not those of Bell Hall or the owners or the staff here. They are exclusively opinions or statements of our guest or potentially me, because I may agree with her, most likely, in fact, or she wouldn't be here, quite frankly. So keep that in mind, but thank you so much to Bell Hall. And Tara, are you ready to get into some tough questions?
Yes.
Okay, so first we'll start with the easy question. Tell us about yourself.
All right, so I'm a single mom. You've already said I'm a county commissioner, a philosopher. I'm also a solar energy consultant, and I have three kids. One of them is in college. He's 22. I have a 21-year-old Marine, and a 12-year-old son who goes to Nitchman. So I'm a pretty busy woman, but I love serving the public. It's what I have been trained to do. And I feel like in my life, I have always been serving people in one way or the other. And to me, being a philosopher, the common good is one of the most important things.
Do you think we're in a point in our culture where people are less likely to engage in conversation and more likely to just kind of move into an area where they're just comfortable with their own ideas, more into like an echo chamber? Like, no one's going to turn, if you're a MSNBC watcher, you're not going to turn on Fox because you just know you're not going to hear anything good, and vice versa. Like, if you're a Fox watcher, you're not going to turn to MSNBC because you want to live in an echo chamber where you're like, you know what, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. I already know my ideas, what I believe in, and we're just not going to talk about this.
Well, yeah, because it's easier. It's easier to be ignorant than to actually put yourself out there.
But is that where we are?
Yourself.
Is that where we are? Where do you think that we are, unfortunately, in like a slippery slope of people are just not going to try to learn anymore? They just don't want to. They don't want to learn. They just want to be comfortable in their own ideas.
I don't think it's that people just want to be comfortable. I think they're tired. I think they're fatigued because we get bombarded with information every day, with statistics, with the right side, the left side, and they're so different that people are sort of like, I don't know what to believe anymore, so I'm not going to believe anything, because it takes so much time to sort out. And honestly, people are working so many hours and trying to hustle in so many different directions. I mean, even like your average middle-class family. Like, I know, I'm working like 3 jobs. I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm taking my kid to soccer practice. I'm going to meetings. And there's a lot of people who live their lives like that. Mm-hmm. They're getting home at 8 o'clock at night, making their dinner for their kids, and they're like, I don't even know we're just gonna have chicken fingers again, thanks. And that's not the way we're meant to live our lives. Like, I have traveled and I've lived in other countries. Like, I was an au pair in Germany and I got to see how they lived there. And like 4 o'clock comes, like, family time, everybody sits down, mom, dad, they have a beer, you have some cheese and like crackers, and they called it brotzeit, and you talk. The kids are playing, or sometimes during the day is when your kids would go to their activities. Like, they would have half day of school and then they would go to their activities. And that seemed to work for everybody. And on the weekends, people weren't working. It's like, what? You're not working till 12 o'clock at night? Why? And you have a sustainable wage where you can feed your family and have a house and a roof over your head and a car in your garage. Wow, and take vacations for 4 weeks out of the year, and you have health care? It's like, wow. And that wasn't just in Germany that I found that. I found that in other countries too. And that was like, 20 years ago. And you think, wow, America, we could have so many much better things, but we haven't claimed that because we think that we can't have that.
But there's also a contingent of our political society that demonizes European culture, and they say, well, that's socialism, or that's, to the point where, there's a huge portion of our society that looks at Europe in a negative light because it's somehow the antithesis of democracy. Like somehow being given health care and being given, a guaranteed paid vacation, maternity leave is somehow, you have to earn that. It's not a given right.
Yeah, you have to justify your life from the day that you're born in this country.
Right.
And the day that you're born, you get a bill. Your parents get a bill. This is I think that we kind of dropped the thread on why we exist. And this is where my philosophy comes in. Because I don't think we're meant to be slaves to the grind. I don't think we're meant to just work all the time and trade our hours for dollars and justify our existence. I think that individually we are meant to seek and pursue our own happiness, and that's in our Constitution. We are meant to be able to be individuals, autonomous with our own agency, make our own decisions, and be able to pursue things that bring us joy. And when you see everybody angry and in suffering and in pain or poverty, you think, some of this is imposed on our culture by us. We have the biggest disparity between the wealthy and the poor. We have a country where we could eradicate homelessness, food insecurity, and poverty, but we don't.
We could have.
Instead, we buy Twitter.
I was just about to say, Elon Musk could have eradicated hunger instead of buying Twitter.
Yeah,
but that's what
Elon Musk could have paid for the whole Build Back Better bill. He could have footed the bill with that, but instead he bought Twitter. And while people were, trying to deal with COVID and they were in their homes trying to figure out how are they going to make ends meet, because I know I was an essential employee as a solar energy consultant because it's considered a utility.
Oh, so was I. So was I. Yeah, and I think Dave might have been too. Dave Harrington, who's off camera right now, he's coming up next. But
so I didn't get the benefit of having or being able to apply for any sort of COVID relief or any sort of coverage or anything like that. And so I had to step up my classes. So my son is trying to go to elementary school online. He was in 5th grade at the time, and then he transitioned to 6th grade, and we're still at home, and that's a tough transition. And my other son is trying to do college classes, and we're in a 1-bedroom apartment, with a loft, trying to have enough bandwidth to achieve all these goals that everybody's trying to do on Wi-Fi. And yet there's people who, are trying to fly to the moon. And you think, wow, the world is on fire. We have climate change. There was literally a wildfire outside my house yesterday. And I couldn't believe it. And I talked to my brother Frank in California because they have wildfires there all the time. And he told me, no, actually the conditions in your area, you had a wildfire warning. And I said, get the heck out. No, we didn't.
I knew that was possible around here.
This is why it's possible. Because he said, even though it rained so much, you had such high winds that it kind of dried everything out. And the air was dry enough. And there's enough kindling around where there could be a small wildfire. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what we're dealing with now. And so people have these needs with their economic or their social or things like that. So they don't,
Maslow's hierarchy, right?
Yes.
That's a very philosophical point of view.
Yeah. So they have these needs, but when your basic needs don't get met, your higher needs don't get met either. And so climate change seems like a real higher need because it's off in the distance, it's not immediate. So when you need to feed your family or you need to go to the doctor, and so many people choose not to go to the doctor or not stay home from work when they're sick because they don't have proper health care. They don't have any coverage. They choose not to go to the dentist at all because that's something even different. They choose not to go to the eye doctor because they can't do that. So those are some things that those basic needs, that's not socialism, that's dignity. That's taking care of each other in a society. That's the social contract. And I talk about that a lot because, we talk about it in philosophy class. You give your hours over to society and you expect something in exchange. Right now, the exchange is pretty lopsided. And we have to balance that out.
And I know we're kind of getting far afield of what I had.
Because I'm a philosopher.
No, but that's my fault because I had questions I wanted to ask, but I'm very intrigued by this conversation. So, what is it about the other party, and I say the other party, meaning the Republican Party, that wealthy people can convince people who are, marginalized or, poor, that somehow the wealthy have their best interests in mind if you just elect them? Like, what is it about? And it's something that I struggle with myself to say, okay, I'm making $30,000 a year and I can't afford, I have 3 kids, I can't afford to send my kids to a private school, so I have to send them to a public school in Allentown. I can't afford to pay, X, Y, and Z, and yet somehow the Republican Party, I vote for the Republican Party because they're making these promises of trickle-down economics or whatever it is. Like, what is
the cognitive dissonance? They vote against their interests a lot. And I was delivering Meals on Wheels during COVID because I just needed to get out of the house. And I wanted to do something good for other people, and they needed more deliveries. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Let's go. And I was going to some homes where there's a Trump sign on the front porch, and the porch is like falling off of whatever the building is, and the people inside are getting Meals on Wheels, but they're talking about how great Trump is. And I think to myself, somehow we have just lost it. We've lost what society means or why we're here or what we're supposed to be doing with each other. Like, we're taking care of each other, and these are the same people where you deliver the meal and they say, oh, we got to stop giving all these handouts to people. Well, wait a second.
Medicare, Social Security,
It's the right people. Some people can get it, but other people shouldn't have it. And this, to me, this is a scarcity and abundance model. If you think that there's enough for everybody and there's enough to go around and you believe that, then you think that, we just need to distribute it differently. But if you think that there's a scarcity of resources and only some people can get it, then you only want your people to get it. And so if you're on this team or that team, that's the team you're on. And this is how race and equity and justice all play a role in whether we believe in a scarcity or abundance model. And fear is what keeps people in a scarcity model, when they think that there's not enough. When we see that in the whole COVID, when everybody was buying a bazillion rolls of toilet paper and bread and milk, like more than they could consume in their probably lifetime, and yet they have somewhere storing this, and they think that there's not enough. But really, there could be enough if everybody didn't get as much as they could all at once. The supply chain wouldn't be breaking down, and we see it breaking down further then because of issues with other countries, and we're not developing enough in our own house, in our own backyards. Like, I really believe buy fresh, buy local. I believe that we should have more manufacturing here, that would build better jobs, and that we would be able to sustain ourselves. And I believe in a circular economy. And at a micro level, like every unit could be, every municipality, every county, every region could have its own circular economy, and it would be much more sustainable than trucking, strawberries cross country so that we can have them all year long. You know what I mean? And that's just an example.
So I have to diverge for a second because I feel like I have to ask you. I don't think I asked you a single question that I told you I was going to ask you, which is good. I mean, that means we have a good rapport going. But last week, I think it was about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago at this point, the DA of Lehigh County announced that he was going to be basically surveilling people at ballot drop boxes and having plainclothes officers, detectives at ballot drop boxes to make sure that people were not dropping off more than one ballot. Now, my question to you, let me preface it with, besides that intro, is that we know that you can get an authorization form to drop off someone else's ballot. We also know that the DA's investigation did not confirm whether those people who were dropping off an extra ballot had authorization forms. Do you think, A, this is a good use of county resources to be doing what he's doing, and B, whether this is just voter intimidation by an opposition party who knows that ballot drop boxes or mail-in ballots typically favor Democrats?
Right. So, definitely, absolutely, it's voter intimidation. Absolutely, the ballot boxes should not be surveilled by armed guards. I mean, can you imagine? And I think that it is the worst use of resources. There's so many better resources that you could allocate those funds to, like maybe, I don't know, rent assistance or anything, you know? So what we're talking about is a GOP that really wants to prevent access to the ballot box because they know that they're going to benefit from that. And that in itself is just unethical and it shouldn't exist. But we know that it does. What people should be looking for is whether or not the ballot is good, right? If it has the barcode on and it goes through, that's fine. We already have people going to mailboxes and delivering multiple ones without surveillance there, and yet that's okay. And somehow they get to the courthouse, they get to the registry, and you're able to see that one person gave one vote, and that's fine.
Right, and just to kind of piggyback on that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to specifically request a mail-in ballot or a ballot drop. So it's attached to your name. It comes to your address. When you get that, you have to sign it with your signature that's on file with the voter registration office. You have to
and put it in a secret envelope.
A secret envelope. So by the time it makes it to the ballot box, I mean, is it realistic that fraud could even potentially take place in that transition?
So there's a study from New York University, Brennan Law Center, that says that it is more likely that you'll get struck by lightning. Like, getting struck by lightning is more common than voter fraud. So I think right there, voter fraud is not going to happen with these vote by mail ballots. And we should just realize that this is a safe, legal way to vote. Other states have been doing it for a long time. It's new to Pennsylvania, and like everything else that's new to Pennsylvanians, we have to get used to it. But get used to it, there's no going back on this. We're voting by mail, and voting by mail early. And furthermore, we should be able to canvass those ballots as soon as they come in. That would help us get our numbers in on time so that we can have election results the night of the election. Northampton County did. We were able to count all of our ballots, and we were able to deliver our election results on time that day.
And that's one of the issues that gave Trump the opportunity to claim voter fraud, to say, well, some counties haven't even counted their ballots yet, and so we had trickling in ballot counts for days.
Well, that's one of the funny things is Pennsylvania Act 37 was revised by a Republican legislature. And now they're like, oh, it didn't work for us, let's claw that back. So they always want to play by their set of rules. They want to be able to dictate the rules. And that's the same with everything about how they create these districts, too. There are some districts that are still going to be Republican. There's some districts that are going to be Democratic. This 14th district leans Democratic. And that's great for us because hopefully we could pick up another seat, and that's why I'm running for it, because I have some great ideas that I want to take to Harrisburg. And I've been working at this for 5 years. 5 years I've been a councilwoman, and I see what the state does in terms of allocating resources and the resources that they don't have and the mandates that they give the counties without funding. And I know that we have to go to Harrisburg and get more for our communities because we're tired of doing more with less.
So Tara, to my last question, which I really haven't asked any of my questions, but that's okay because it was a good conversation. But it's really a great segue to ask, if you win Senate, 14th District, Senate, Pennsylvania, you're likely going to join a legislature that is run by the Republicans. Forget about governor or U.S. Senate. Unless you hit a home run and you win all the seats, for Senate and representative, you're basically going to have an uphill climb to get anything passed that you want in a Republican-controlled legislature. How do you plan to get, say, a minimum wage of $15 an hour, or other things that you might have interest in getting through a Republican-controlled legislature that really doesn't have an appetite for really spending any money on social programs at all?
Right. Well, right now, I know that in my 5 years experience as a commissioner in a legislative body, I've been able to build coalitions. I've been able to get bipartisan support for things that some people don't think should have ever gotten passed.
No, it's cool, man. Thank you for lowering it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was really nice. But
building coalitions.
Building coalitions, and you build and the thing is, when you build coalitions, you have diversity within those coalitions. People come from various backgrounds, sometimes different political parties, but you unite on a common thing. And to speak to the point of the $15 minimum wage, I've already seen some Republicans start to move because there's a lot of business owners out there who are having a hard time getting people to work. And it's because they're not paying a fair wage, a sustainable wage. So we have, 23% of the workforce that makes below $15 an hour, okay? 80% of those are older than 20 years old, and 50% of them are women, and actually more than 50% are women, and 46% of them are full-time employees. You can't be a full-time employee working 40 hours a week for less than $15 an hour and think that you're going to be able to sustain a family. This is how the warehouses are able to steal people. And there's only so long that you're going to be able to be a warehouse athlete. And there's only so many positions that are going to be available for mobility. So that $20 that people are making now is really shifting everything in the Lehigh Valley in terms of what the wages are. So we're actually seeing some Republicans come over and say, you know what, we're going to have to raise some wages here because we're losing teachers, we're losing nurses, we're losing housekeeping staff, we're losing people who work in restaurants. They're still making $283, $725. Those wages haven't changed. 20 years ago was a waitress working for $283 an hour in tips.
Same.
And that's character building. I just have to say, anybody who can manage their time and
I cleaned up a lot of wing bones in my day.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I've cleaned up a lot of stuff. But that's the kind of thing is, back in the day, I was waitressing, and I probably could have made a sustainable wage on my tips because people were very generous. If you're kind and you do good service, that's fine. But that's not the standard wage. That's not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to walk out, and some of those nights you make, your $283 and maybe a little bit more. And it's not anything that you could raise a family on. It's not anything as a single person that you could actually have an apartment where the average rate of increase of rent in the Lehigh Valley is between 16 and 16.3%, when the national average is 11%. We're having a housing crisis here now, and if we don't do something about the wages and the rent, and that's across Pennsylvania. So I think people are going to start waking up, and I think once you start throwing these numbers at people, once you start people start to feel it, then they know. I'm a single mom. My rent's going up 18% this year. Almost $300 a month. That shook me. And I'm working 3 jobs. I do what I have to get by, to do what I need to do. I'm not making gobs of money, but I got what I need. And that's what I believe. I simply live so that other people can simply live. And that's the way I think a lot of people should live. But a lot of people can't simply live. And we are witnessing that here with these skyrocketing rates, the rate of increase of homelessness. 34% of Pennsylvanians are on supplemental nutritional programs. That's amazing. 34% of households on SNAP. Our school districts here, there's a good majority of people who are on free or reduced lunch. And that means they're going home and their parents aren't making a livable wage. And we can see that disparity in the school districts. The school that I went to when I was a kid, Freemansburg Elementary, which is not in this district, but I know very well, 90-some% of the kids there are in free or reduced lunch. It's amazing. And you know that you need good nutrition to be able to function in school. You know that your parents need to be able to provide that for you. And the reason why they're not is because they don't have a sustainable wage. So it's sad. It's sad that we're living in this kind of disparity. And we can alleviate this. And that's kind of what my philosophy brings us. You know, I teach Buddhism at DeSales. And I tell my class, you know, I get it, all life is suffering, but we can alleviate that suffering. But we have to do it with ourselves and other people first, and we have to make the path. And that's just what I want to do. I want to take that path to Harrisburg, and I want to make it there. I do want to take the opportunity to say that last month was Earth Month, and every day is really Earth Day. I'm on several boards, including the conservation districts, the airport, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, but the one that I love the most is the Wildlands Conservancy, and we actually planted 350 trees last Friday for Earth Day at Wayne Grove Park. And it's an amazing organization. If you have an opportunity or a chance to support the Wildlands Conservancy, which is in Emmaus, and they provide education, training, and also land conservation for carbon, Lehigh, Northampton County, and beyond. Please support them in their capital campaign, and you could go to their website and donate today. So thank you.